call your operator.
Have no fear, fellow citizens. The Mediator is here.
Good morning and welcome to this week's edition of The Mediator with me, your host, Brian West. Here we give you the top 8 headlines and developing news stories that made it this week. Now, as usual, give you the top 8 local headlines and developing news stories that made it first, followed by a movie clip, a skit, a trailer, or something that's going on in the community, and maybe some pictures. And then I'll give you the top 8 international headlines and developing news stories that made it, folks. So let's waste no time. Oh, yeah. Let's get to it. Story number 1. Reading is a topic of local concern. The Associated Press has an article that may hit the local English classrooms' goals pretty soon. That means their goals, what they set to do, because it appears that students are reading fewer books in English class, according to the report. Now, local authors for years have been complaining about the lack of local community support. This is in the local community, and the fact that the newer generation just doesn't seem that interested in reading their work, folks. The story is gaining steam and still developing. Story number 2. The improvements are underway at the Cavelli Center. David Scolding has an article published September 14th explaining how, with their debts paid off, the city plans to move forward with a series of improvement projects at the now 19-year-old Cavelli Center facility. Now, that's almost word for word according to the report. Now, the city plans to pay Book and Sons $1,236,000. So that's Book and Sons. Now they're giving them the money to replace a large portion of the original roof, which they say had some leaks. Story number 3. How are Mahoning County schools doing, especially Youngstown? Brandon Cantwell and Dan Pompley have an article published September 14th explaining how some Mahoning County schools are showing progress on their state report card. Youngstown saw some of its school ratings drop, but according to the report, representatives remain optimistic because Youngstown ran early college, Chaffin Career Center, and Chaffin Career and Technical Center. They all maintain a 5-star rating. That's what's in the report. Now, this is the most recent state report card. That's what the report says. Now, the entire article is worth a read for those looking to know more about how all of the local schools are doing, folks. The good thing is that they're making progress. Story number 4. Violence remains a topic of local concern. Dan Pompley has a report published September 14th explaining how many local school districts saw an increase in policing activity. Now, the report explains how schools have had to face threats and violence remains a top concern. These bomb threats, all types of stuff. Now, this story is still developing because they're trying to stop the violence. Story number 5. YSU enrollment is up. Youngstown State University has seen a significant surge in enrollment for the fall of 2024, according to YSU's website. The head count of 12,164 students shows the data at a 10.7% increase from last year's enrollment of 10,993 students, making this the largest enrollment increase since 2018, according to the report. YSU made headlines last year because the concern about dips in enrollment were in major headlines even after the appointment of former Congressman Bill Johnson as the new president of the university. Story number 6. Youngstown firefighters are in the headlines. David Scolding has a report out of Youngstown published September 17th in the Vindicator about how the city's Firefighters Union has filed a complaint with the 7th District Court of Appeals to compel Youngstown to provide public records regarding the correspondence for the fire chief when referring to the demolition of Realty Tower. I hope that makes sense. It just basically saying they're looking for some paperwork that this stuff was all legit. Now that's almost word for word in the report. Now the report goes on to say that the union claims that the city is improperly withholding public records in violation of state law. Story number 7 and the top 2 local headlines and developing news stories that made this week, folks. This show is very, very, I have to do a lot of research every week. So I want to thank the people in the community who I see out. They say they watch the show. That is the whole purpose for me being in here. I am not in here for my health, even though it probably does help my mental health. But I'm in here just because I have a passion for this. And I mean, sometimes I don't even see a paycheck. I don't even get paid. This is all voluntary work, to be honest with you. So I thank those who do watch the show. I do upload the show to the website if you don't get up this early. So let's get to these top 2 stories. But it's been a battle because when you got common sense, sometimes that gift can get you through hell. Story number 7: who could buy troubled local hospitals? Ron Seelig Jr. has a report published September 17th explaining how Florida-based Yates Medical Group, LLC, may be interested in taking over Trumbull Regional Medical Center and Hillside Rehabilitation Hospital. Steward Health Care is currently in the bankruptcy lines, with their CEO under pressure to explain what took place financially. Story number 8, and the top local headline and developing news story that made it this week. Folks, you could either be informed or you could be one of those people who really don't know what's going on. You could be one of those people that may think that a politician is your boy or your homie without being your colleague. Or you could be like, that person does not need to be in office. That's what informed does to you, information. And you could either be, I have to be informed every week, and I'm walking around cautiously now because I don't know who's not informed. I don't know who's on my team. Story number 8, a few inconvenient local headlines. Top: concerned citizens continue to get their time to complain when trying to improve local conditions. That's a fact. This is after a commissioners meeting that got heated after a Bezetta Township trustee was asked for help recovering some missing funds. Now, this seems to be the case for many local districts who have reported losing money. So we all know Vienna. Now, Bezetta Township lost over $100,000 in funds that ended up in a fraudulent bank account after a hacking incident, according to the report. Now, the commissioners are now asking for help in getting the money back, folks. This story is still developing. That's what story number 8 made to the top this week. Well, folks, those are our top 8 local headlines in developing news stories that I made this week. I'll be right back with the top 8 local international headlines in developing news stories. So don't you go anywhere. You're in the media to be Brother West. I'll be right back. Welcome back. Now it's time to get to the top 8 international headlines and developing news stories that made this week, folks. Yes, we live in America, the land of the free, the home of the brave. But you will see some strange things in America. Ooh. Strange things like you will see presidents or somebody who's running for office get an assassination attempt. You might even see somebody get assassinated. And America is so free that sometimes you don't even know who tried to assassinate the person. You will also see people get elected. And you will see people who have no clue who these people are. America is interesting. You will also see people getting a check in the mail at times. And many people don't even know where this check is coming from. They fill out forms. And the sad part about that I've learned about America is that information is wild. And the word free can sometimes be deceptive. I was going to try to pay a bill. They shut off the internet. Just shut it off. I'm not going to tell you who the company was, but the guy told me I had to the 30th. And just shut it off. So I had to call. I spent about 30, 40 minutes trying to figure out what happened. Why did my arrangements get miscommunicated? And I had to go to rep after rep. And what I noticed is on the screen, they had all these people in the commercial smiling and holding hands. And this is what you see on TV all the time. But behind the scenes, folks, it's hell. People are going crazy. especially when you get your bills shut off. So that's what I've learned about America. It's a great country, but on TV, everything look as bright as day. When I'm on TV, people probably think that brother has got it going on. But behind the scenes, I got people in the chokehold and trying to get my blessing. Woo! Trying to get my blessing. Even if I was even trying to be informed, the saddest part is you don't know who's not informed. You be like, do you know who informed? Do you know? Can I have a conversation with somebody? And some people be on another planet, another galaxy, slanging rocks. But that's America. But when somebody tries to assassinate a political leader, you could be sitting in church with them. You wouldn't even know. They'd be sitting up there putting tithes and offering. And you'd be like, oh, he tried to do a school shooting. You won't. How do we know? You won't know until the dude finally take action. That's how crazy America is. It's a great nation. But behind the scenes, folks, there's some strange stuff going on. You could be at church. I got to keep going. Keep going, Brian. And the Reverend could be preaching his heart out. But behind the scenes, he could be stealing everybody's money, folks. Let's waste no time. God bless America. I still love my country. Thank God I served it. Let's waste no time, folks. Let's get to it. Story number 1. Why go to college is the new question for teens. CNBC has a headline explaining how teens are losing faith in college and going for the skilled trades. And the main factor in this decision is the rising cost of college and student loan debt. The report goes on to call Generation Z the tool belt generation because a lot of them were choosing trade schools. Did you know that 900,000 fewer undergraduates enrolled in college for 4 years? This is 4 years after the COVID pandemic. So that's 900,000 fewer people in college. That's a lot of people, folks. That's making this a topic. Story number 2: housing remains a concern in an uncertain market. CNN has a piece explaining how a Fed rate cut could have unintended consequences for the housing market. The piece is extensive and even explains how we got to this point. The piece shows a growing understanding of what real estate investors are facing, with many weathering the storm and many making moves in what appears to be a still uncertain market. The current political climate has a lot to do with what is taking place in the market. CNBC has a headline explaining how weekly mortgage demand surged 14% higher as interest rates hit a 2-year low. This is all while applications to refinance home loans jumped 24% from the previous week and were 127% higher than the same week 1 year ago. Applications for a mortgage to purchase a home increased 5% for that, so that's 0.4% lower than the same week 1 year ago. Story number 3: Harris's corporate tax plan remains a top story. Forbes has a report about how Harris's plan to raise the corporate tax rate to expand the child tax credit would hurt the economy. The report highlights how provisions of the 2017 Tax Cuts and Jobs Act will expire at the end of 2025. Now, this includes the individual income tax cuts. Now, another talking point in the report is how the 119th Congress will have to pass a new law to prevent tax increases on the middle class at a time when families are still struggling with inflation. Now, the report goes on to say how some have suggested a larger child tax credit be included in any new laws. They're basically saying that they want this child credit, but what it's going to cost is how they're going to get the money. But if you did not know, a new study has found that raising the corporate tax rate to pay for a bigger child tax credit would reduce economic growth, wages, and employment. That's what the new research is saying. That's why they're starting to look at this. Now, this is all stated almost word for word in the report, which goes on to to explain Harris's plan. The report even goes as far as to explain other better ways to help out families without raising taxes. Story number 4. Prices and wages are still in top headlines. How any people or any person, how families are keeping up with wages, are keeping up in this economy and their wages are staying the same is strange. So basically, you're saying how are they keeping up while their paycheck isn't matching inflation? That's a big question. And how do you match inflation when you have to pay the bills yourself? Now, one CNBC headline explains this entire situation, kind of points things out. Now, apparently the worst of rising prices seems to be over, according to the report. But it appears that most Americans are still feeling the burn when they go shopping due to the fact that their wages can't keep up with costs. Now, one key talking point in this report is the fact that in the midst of this inflation roller coaster ride, wages have stayed the same as stated before, which could explain the credit card boom. A lot of people are using their credit cards. That's why story number 4 made it this week, because finances continue to be a main concern. Well, folks, so there are top 4 international headlines and developing news stories that made this week. I'll be right back with the top 4. So don't you go anywhere. The Mediator and me, bro. Let's talk right back. Tune in to Method Ace YouTube channel to check out the top interviews that made it throughout the years and months. Visit method88.com. Check out all the community interviews if you want to check it out. Method88.com. Buy something, click on something, watch something, read something, or just sponsor a program. Oh, yeah. Welcome back. Now it's time to get to the top 4 international headlines and developing news stories that made this week. Folks, we're talking about things that go on behind the scenes. And I was in a conversation with somebody about kids and how a lot of kids are on autopilot. You know what I mean? It's like they don't tend to be able to think for themselves. That's a lot of people are still suffering with that disorder where you're on autopilot and you just kind of think that everything is just going to kind of do it itself. Like, you know, just kind of fall in your lap. You're just going to hit the lottery without trying. And this is a big topic, you know, because kids, what I've learned from most young adults is they say, you know, when I was in high school, they would always talk about these processes, but when you get in the real world, it's not like that. Like, you have to scrape for cash. You could have a college degree and still not have a job, and still want you to pay the bills. And what I've also learned is that a lot of people, when they sign up for something, they may not read the fine literature, and then when somebody says, "You're fired," they just be like, "Oh, I'm offended." They may go burn the place down, get about 20 years in prison. So that's what I'm learning. Like, it's like people feel they don't want to be duped, and everybody wants to feel loved, you know. But business is scary. Business is scary. You will see people getting sex trafficked. I mean, we just saw now P. Diddy is in jail. You know, and the judge doesn't want to give him bail, and he's pleaded for saying he's not guilty. And you see all these people talking about his sex life and you know, what I've learned is that a lot of even people sometimes, like even our own imperfections, what would we do if we were all billionaires? Will we be in mansions, having multiple partners, having sex? I mean, you're a billionaire. If you're called the king of pop, you know, in some countries they allow young girls to have sex with older men. But in America, it's against the law. So a lot of what we're seeing is all psychological. But some people, they're saying these people are sick, pedophiles, sex trafficking. But sometimes that's not the case. When you go up the ladder, you may see somebody bigger than you pushing somebody else on the bottom of the ladder off. And other people, some people who don't really know what's going on, they may think they know what's going on. They could be victims. And that's the reality of what we see now. A lot of stuff is psychological. I could be sitting in the backyard, upset, lonely, and a nice young female may walk up and say, "Hey, Brian, how you doing? How you feeling?" And after she rubs my back, gives me a nice lecture in my ear, she may slip me a bill. And I'll be like, "I can't pay." And she'll be like, "You raped me." I'm like, "Oh, I'm devastated." Oh. I hear you calling. Here I come, baby, to save you. Woo. Let's waste no time, folks. Oh, oh, baby, no more stalling. Let's waste no time. Let's get to it. Story number 5. Speaking of conspiracies, assassination attempts are not uncommon. Yet again, an attempt to take Donald Trump's life has made headlines. It was made, thus showing how difficult it is to be involved in the field of politics. Here are some stats. 4 sitting presidents have been killed in America. If you did not know, that includes Abraham Lincoln, James Garfield, William McKinley, and John F. Kennedy. This is according to Wikipedia. So seeing this happen to a former president is not rare. But it could be rare because this has happened in the past, but it's only happened to 4 presidents. Now, if you did not know, Vladimir Putin has survived 6 assassination attempts, and there is a long list of world leaders who have faced the wrath of assassinations and assassination attempts. So Trump is now on the list with 2 in 1 year, which is pretty bad, seeing the time frame that we live in where pretty much anything goes, folks. That's making the story, getting into the top. Story number 6. The world's largest financial institution is in the top headlines. Forbes has a headline explaining how U.S. government lending has grown. That means that the government, which is the world's largest financial institute, is in the spotlight in these tough times. The purpose of this report is to show how that even though some people's outlook on government may be grim, they may actually not comprehend that with no government, nothing works. Everybody may hate the government. I ain't paying them taxes. Forget that. They owe me. I'm the president of the United States. I'm the queen of England. I'm the queen of Africa, the U.S., but they may be like, oh, well, how does this go work? I mean, how we go? There's a system. You're used to the system. What would happen if it's anarchy? Big headline. That's big. That's big. Big headlines. Big. Who's going to do the headlines? Brian got to do the headlines. You do the headlines. Somebody got to come here and do the show. If I don't do the show, would you hate me? Would you love me? Big headlines. Big headlines. Story number. Story. Who's going to say the stories? Folks, that's what it all boils down to. Basically saying that without the government paying me, I can't give you a service. I can't get a loan. Folks, the U.S. government alone provides credit to homeowners, businesses, students, and other borrowers, and has grown significantly larger than it was prior to the 2008 financial crisis. We all remember that when big time Obama got elected. Big time. That's when we all saw things change, where government just kind of took over the financial institutes, took over everybody's money. Wall Street, they regulated Wall Street, folks. The article has some very important information when it comes to the government's role in the financial well-being of its citizens and borrowers, but also highlights how policy has made this possible. Story number 7 in the top 2 international headlines and developing news stories that made it this week for you to keep you informed, with the top 8 working twice as hard, checking it twice, gonna find out if you're informed or not. Story number 7. I'm like Jeopardy. I am Alex Trebek. Here is mediation. Story number 7. Household wealth is in the headlines. Reuters has a headline explaining how record U.S. household wealth may increase the chance of a soft landing. Now, this report was published September 16th by Jamie McGeever and highlights the fact that the U.S. households are sitting on their largest accumulation of net wealth in history. Where's my money? Now, the report states what recent news doesn't, and that is the fact that U.S. consumers are better off than they've been in decades, they've ever been. Now, this report goes on to say that the stock market lifted households' net worth in the second quarter by $2.8 trillion to a record $163.8 trillion. That means that household net worth soared nearly $47 trillion from the pre-pandemic peak less than 5 years ago. Story number 8 and the top international headline and developing news story that made this week. Folks, I've been called humble and a pretty nice guy. And people always say, well, Brian, they see your kindness for your weakness. You know what I've learned, though, is that if people actually looked back in my my life, what I've seen, I can speak for a lot of people who have been humbled and have been beat down by life, and it has made me a better person because I continue to hit rock bottom, but I know how to climb out, and I try to pass that to people around me. So I've tried to be a decent human being, and a lot of people don't possess those skills. So I hope that this show, when you watch this show, you see a picture of a person who has seen reality and has also seen spiritualism, who has been through mental counseling. So some people don't know what that feels like, so they may not have compassion for people who are suffering. So that's why when we see somebody trying to assassinate or kill somebody, I understand what that's like. So I sympathize. So if you are suffering with mental health problems, I had to get help years ago. There's nothing wrong with seeking help. If I'm in trouble, I do seek help, and that a lot of people don't possess that trait. So if you do need help, please go out, especially if you're thinking about killing a politician or going to shoot up a school. So let's get to this top story. Story number 8. The House is divided when it comes to preventing a shutdown. NBC News shows a divided House struggling to avoid a government shutdown, and time is running out to prevent a funding lapse. On October 1st, they're saying that that's the date that they have for this shutdown. Now, the main reason seems to be due to a short-term funding bill tied to the SAVED Act, which is a legislation backed by Republican presidential nominee Donald Trump, requiring proof of citizenship to vote, which couldn't get enough votes. So they're saying that they're trying to attack people who are not legal voters. Folks, the holdup has everything to do with the next election, bumping this story into the top 8 because there's a lot going on politically. But if you do feel like you want to hurt somebody, please do get help. When you try to kill people, it only makes it worse for the next man in line. When you shoot up a school, it only makes it worse for people who are actually trying to get things done. Well, folks, there are top 8 local and international headlines and developing news stories that made this week. I hope you got something out of today's program. I always get something out of doing the research. As usual, I thank all the news outlets, the journalists, people on the front lines. You deserve all the credit. I'm just the mediator, the man in the middle, navigating your stories just to keep people informed. If you want to show some support here at Method 8, it does not take much. All you do is visit the website on the screen, buy something, click on something, watch something, read something, or just sponsor a program. Or you can stop at the store at 5648 Market Street in Boardman, Ohio. Buy something from the store. I'm there 10 to 6 p.m. Monday through Friday. Sometimes, maybe at the end of summer, maybe at the beginning of spring, I'll be there on the weekends. Other than that, have a good week, everybody. Thank you for tuning to The Mediator with me, Brian West. Peace.
Have no fear, fellow citizens. The Mediator is here.